Phantasy Star Online 2 was a hub MMORPG created in 2013, and it was fantastic. It was one of the few popular MMORPGs to have good real-time combat, and the combat systems the game had in place, like the red circle attack timing, helped make its combat really unique. And as of 2023, Phantasy Star Online 2 is essentially dead, with it being replaced by Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. New Genesis takes inspiration from the original PSO 2, but somehow manages to ignore everything that made it great. Boring and repetitive combat, a new and horrible art style, a focus on in-game purchases, and what I consider one of the cardinal sins of RPGs in general, forceful grinding for no actual reason. But I'll speak more on that last point later. So today I'm going to be talking about what made the original PSO 2 great and why New Genesis falls short. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the combat. This is what gameplay mainly consists of in both of the games, so I feel like it's important to start here. Base PSO 2's combat might seem a little slow at first when you compare it to NGS, but that's because you have to think about your attacks. In base PSO 2, throughout the game, depending on the class you pick, you'll find different ability discs throughout the world. These abilities are called photon arts, and they are the groundworks of your combat. As you play the game, you'll find more and more ability discs, each having different techniques or attacks that will help diversify your combat. As a player, you choose abilities that work well together and can be used in multiple situations. Let's take the Braver for example. This is the first class I mained and is probably my favorite class apart from the 4 Scions. The Braver uses a bow and katana, the katana being for close range attacks and the bow being for long range. The Braver uses fast attacks and is very good at getting in and out of situations, with a lot of his abilities focusing on speed. Using these ability discs, I created a Braver that isn't as fast and actually uses slow, hard-hitting attacks but can exit situations quickly and finish enemies off with my bow. All these abilities I picked work well with each other, and a lot of this is because of the red circle timing. I'm sure that's not what it's actually called, but it works, so I'm going to keep saying it. Every time you attack or dash or use a technique or photon art, a red circle appears on your character. It increases attack damage, reloads faster, makes your technique or photon art faster. It basically just buffs your next move. Once you get into a rhythm of timing your moves and attacks, you'll consistently see yourself doing more damage and overall just being more productive in combat. New Genesis has none of this. New Genesis just scraps the disc shit and just gives you all the attacks you're gonna have at the beginning of the game. Now, to be fair, apparently the game has added new photon arts, but like, this was like a year into the game's existence, and people in the comment section correct me if I'm wrong, but each class has only gotten like one new photon art since the game's release. But anyway, yeah, see those 5 photon arts you're given at the beginning of the game? Those are the only abilities you have. That's it. In base PSO 2, learning new photon arts was fun as a new player, and it's important for beginners as it gives them a reason to keep playing. GS just gets rid of that, also getting rid of like a whole section of PSO 2's combat that made it more enjoyable. You don't really have a choice. They give you 5 photon arts and that takes up all the space you have in your hotbar. This is literally like the least they could give you. NGS also got rid of the red circle timing, which just doesn't make sense to me. All it did was make combat more interesting and require players to actually be aware of what they're doing instead of just button mashing, and removing this feature just doesn't make sense to me. One thing they did keep is being able to charge your photon arts to change them and make them stronger, so yeah, that's cool, but even that, this isn't even for all of the classes. Like, for the katana, for the fucking Braver and the Slayer, yeah, but like, for the fighter, charging your attack doesn't really change anything. It just prolongs the attack or makes you repeat them, so it doesn't even apply to all the characters in the game. But even with all of this aside, the main gripe I have with NGS's combat is how it feels. Base PSO 2 was a very grounded game, as in like you weren't flying around the air doing mid-air attacks. There are a lot of vertical attacks that lift you in the air, but for the most part it has very grounded combat. NGS does the complete opposite of this. It has the player being able to do all of their attacks in the air and having them basically be able to float while they're attacking. On its own, this isn't necessarily bad. I mean, some people would even consider it an upgrade since your character now has more angles to attack from. The problem isn't that the character is floating, the problem is that the combat itself feels floaty. It feels like every attack you do in the game is a light attack, and there's no weight behind the attacks. They all feel weak. The combat is a massive downgrade from base PSO 2, and I feel like they changed a lot of things that didn't need to be changed. One thing I touched on earlier was giving players a reason to keep playing, and NGS does a horrible job at this. There is nothing to chase in this game as a beginner. There's no new abilities, all the weapons look the same, and the story is... the story is the story, I guess. Let's not talk about that shit. As you play the game, every once in a while it stops you from playing the main story quests and requires you to increase your battle power. Your battle power is like the addition and average of all your gear combined, and I'm sorry, but this is fucking horrible. The game essentially forces you to do side quests, and that's fine, to be honest. I don't really care about that until you realize that doing side quests won't be enough to raise your battle power. You'll need to level up and get new armor and weapons, and then upgrade these pieces of armor and weapons. And you might be thinking, oh, at least I get new armor and weapons. Well, not really. The armor is just a boost in defense, strength and isn't actually shown in your character or has any special effects, so it's essentially just a stat boost. And all the weapons in this game look the same. Genuinely, you'll be grinding for hours to either get the same weapon with higher stats or a different weapon that just looks like the same weapon you already have but is a different color. If you want to reach the power level, it requires hours of defeating the same 7 enemy types with the same 5 attacks so you can get the same weapon over and over again until you can level up or get enough materials to increase your attack power. And this is all a way to reach the game's artificially inflated power level you need to reach to continue playing the game. This is used to increase its longevity and make it seem like there's substance to it when there really isn't. Grinding in MMORPGs isn't fun because it's grinding, it's fun because why you're doing it and what you get along the way. When I'm leveling up a gathering class in Final Fantasy 14, it's not because I enjoy hitting rocks, it's because of what leveling up the class will give me and what I obtain and learn while doing it. When I'm playing Destiny 2, the reason I run the same Lost Sector 12 times isn't because I enjoy doing it. It's because I want the Lordly Splendor exotic helmet for my Titan, but along the way I also get the Precious Scars helmet, which is also pretty cool, and I also learn new ways to fight enemies while I was doing it. In New Genesis, all you get are the same weapons with different colors and an increase in an arbitrary power level, also I can continue playing the game. There is no reward at the end. Like, make it make sense. The reward for playing the game is playing the game. It's just like a never-ending cycle. And to be fair, most MMORPGs or just RPGs in general can be broken down into cycles, but like, NGS is just a cycle of pain and suffering. Okay, I might be exaggerating, but like, you get what I mean. Another lesser issue that does irk me is the art style change. The reason I say lesser is because like, if this game did have great combat and was genuinely enjoyable, then I wouldn't be talking about this. But it isn't. The game is ass, so I'm gonna mention it. This game does not look good at all. I mean, even compared to PSO 2, it still doesn't look good. This is me being 100% honest. I still think base PSO 2 holds up today. It obviously looks a bit dated, but because it wasn't going for a realistic style and was leaning into the anime art style, it has aged pretty well over the years. NGS, however, has looked like shit since its release. I tried going for this like realistic anime art style, kinda like Jump Force, but all the characters in this game are so glossy and shiny, like they all look like dolls. This is also a quick side note. I played the game again and they kind of did change the art style or the graphics. Maybe it's just my Xbox is broken, but the game kind of has this now like Breath of the Wild type shading to it, and I guess it's definitely better, but the problem is the game does not look as good as Breath of the Wild. It looks like half-assed and like it doesn't really work with the game. You can only really see it when you zoom into characters, so it's I don't know, man. The game still looks like shit. Last thing I want to talk about is this change from hub MMO to an open world MMO. One of the things I love about base PSO2 is how each stage took place in a different area on different planets, and I felt like I was honestly exploring this small galaxy. Like, exploring each area with its unique enemies was cool, and I feel like this feeling was lost in NGS. To be fair, they did try to recapture this feeling by giving the different parts of the world like different biomes and shit, and that, it's cool I guess, but it just doesn't hit the same. Also, like, the enemies are just reskins of enemies from different parts of the world, whereas in base PSO2 they were just completely different enemies with some that would be in every planet. I'm just saying. Again, to be fair, it is hard to capture the feeling of space exploration in an open world game like this, but also at the same time, games like the original Destiny do this perfectly. So yeah, no, fuck PSO2 New Genesis. Also have to kind of assume that like Sega wasn't willing to pump that much money into New Genesis, so I'll cut the developers some slack. The game still sucks though. Look, when I started playing base PSO2, it was long past its heyday and was already making the transition into NGS, but even then I was able to see how great of a game it was. Every once in a while I'll log onto NGS to see how things are going, and you know, it does seem like things are slowly but surely getting better, but at this pace it will be years before NGS is even comparable in quality to base PSO2. So to end the video, PSO2 New Genesis isn't good. Base PSO2 is cool, but it's also kind of dead and not populated at all. The ship I was on is one of the least populated ships, so I can't even really play the game with other people anymore. Go play Final Fantasy 14. Or fuck it, play Destiny 2. Add me on Destiny 2, bro. And that's the end of the video. PSO2 is one of my favorite games, even though I played it as it was dying, but I don't know, man, I still love it. I plan on starting the game over on a new ship. This is weird, I wrote this video yesterday. I did try to do that, and I just can't. It's like, why am I playing as a level 1 hunter when I have a fucking level 97 fucking Phantom on my other ship? I don't know, man. I'm playing some fucking Destiny 2, bro. Yeah. I mean, I might take a look at NGS again. I probably won't, but who knows. As always, this has been your boy Jugo Young, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!